Hello everyone. This is the second time I've tried to film this, and the phone stopped recording, and so I did this entire presentation, and it didn't get recorded. So I'm slightly even more agitated than I was to begin with. But I do feel like this information needs to be recorded so that I can watch it later and remember what I might not be remembering at the time. So, long story short, I love cars. I just love them. I just can't get enough of them, and I am always sort of trading them or buying or selling them or whatever. So, just get that out there. Currently, in the society out here, cars have, specifically trucks, have been given this inflated value. They're worth more than they're actually worth, or ever will be worth, or ever were worth, based on their current condition. So that being said, I'm an opportunist. So if I know that my vehicle is now worth more than it ever will be, or was, of course I'm going to try to figure out how to get my dirty paws on that money. Okay? So I've got a truck, Ford F-150 King Ranch EcoBoost, fully loaded to the 9, dirty because I towed around 2 stinky dirty boys and a big dog that, just is dirty all the time. And so anyway, it can be cleaned and restored to showroom quality very easily, should someone decide that they want to do that. For me, it's sort of an effort in futility because they're just going to mess it up again. So what's the point? So anyway, knowing that I have this truck that it's worth a lot more than it should be worth because of the demand in society right now for vehicles of this sort, I have decided to try to figure out how do I cash in on the inflated intrinsic value of this car. Okay, and I've done this many times before, so I sort of have my own little process, and I'm going to try to share that process here for myself, because if I get dementia or something like that, I can, just look at it in the future and know what I was how I was doing things in the past. So you've always got to have some way of determining what is the fair market value for your car. What will somebody give you, no questions asked, for that car, and with very little back and forth negotiating. So for me personally, NADA is great, KBB is great. I use Carvana because Carvana is the one that's going to give me the money. They're going to say, all right, this is what your vehicle is worth to me, and I use that as my benchmark for what my car is worth. So when I want to sell a car, I always submit the information to Carvana, and they give me what the car is worth to them immediately. So I literally know what the car is worth within seconds to someone. Okay, so it's a place to start. So for me, the truck is worth $27,363 to Carvana. They will come over here tomorrow, load that puppy up, give me a check, and leave. No questions asked. Totally based on my subjective opinion of the truck, which, to be fair, they know that I sell them good quality vehicles. I take care of my vehicles, with the exception of the dust, which can be cleaned up. So that's my fair market value. That's where I start. Okay. You have to know all right, so what am I going to replace that with? What interests me right now? I've had the Rams, I've had the other Fords, I've had Chevrolets, I've had the Toyotas, I've literally had them all, and lifted, not lifted. Right now I'm sort of on maybe a partially lifted sort of ideal. I don't really want to totally trick it out, but I definitely don't want it just to be bare bones stock for sure. So in my mind, I would like to get an Avalanche. Okay, I have very positive memories of Avalanches, and I'd like to have one. The problem with the Avalanche is they were discontinued in 2013, and they're very hard to find. Low mileage models are very hard to find. So it can be a little tricky trying to locate one of those and get it within your possession. And that's sort of the issue I'm having right now. So anyway, in my mind, I'm after an Avalanche, low mileage, the year 2007 to 2013. I don't really care. Somewhere along that spectrum, they're the same. They didn't really do much differently to them during that time. Motor, transmission, all that stuff sort of the same. There's maybe some little differences. But anyway, this is where I'm starting with my vehicle. So it's paid off, so they would just give me that cash, and of course I need to spin it into something else and maybe even keep some of it in my pocket. So Carvana does give you a 7-day expiration date on their offers, and I'm getting pretty close to the end of that. Also, I'm taking care of these two little boys right here while I'm doing this, so please excuse the noise. So something else you need to know too is when you sell a car just outright, I'm sold it, they gave me a check, and you didn't trade it, you are then going to be responsible for your next vehicle purchase's ad valorem tax, which in my case was going to be probably around somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,700. Okay, so there's two ways of going about this. One, you find a truck that you want. In my case, I'm looking for an Avalanche, and you trade in your truck for this value, and then Georgia specifically, you then can roll over the tax that you paid for this vehicle initially, and then you can have access to that ad valorem tax. Whereas if you sell it and then go through a purchase process without trading in, you are then responsible for both the purchase price of the vehicle and the ad valorem tax. So for me, I'm an opportunist, so I want to keep that money in my pocket. I don't want to pay that again. I want to roll that down the road. So in order to do that, I would preferably, I'm a huge fan of Carvana. I cannot say enough about them. They are the future of car sales. They will put these brick and mortar, predatory, deceptive practicing mom and pop shops out of business. I believe with all my heart. They're going to go the way of the yellow cab. Definitely. Can't say enough good about Carvana. They are setting the industry standard 100%. Their prices are maybe slightly higher than what the competitors are charging, but you literally don't feel violated after you engage in business with them. You don't feel molested. You don't feel in any way, shape, or form taken advantage of. You knew what you were getting into, and you get a big promise and a great product. They take care of their cars. I mean, they make sure that every bell, every whistle, if it's not working, they'll give you money for it. They literally have given me checks because like the floor mats were missing or something like that. So I could do a whole video on Carvana and my experience with them, and I probably will. But right now, my focus is explaining the process I'm going through right now with trying to liquidate and reinvest it into some other vehicle. So I've got my fair market value, and I've got options. I either trade it or I sell it. So option number one, if you're going to go down the sell route, is, well, if that's what a dealership's going to pay, what would I get on the private market? So sell to an individual. Clearly the dealership's going to mark that price up $3-4 grand, and then sell to somebody. So the problem with this market is, unless you're dealing with something less than $15,000, there's very few people that will just be able to walk up to you and give you cash, that much. Like, it's just, if anything else, you're going to be dealing with a lot of tire kickers. People are going to be trying to negotiate you down because they're going to have to pay the ad valorem tax. Like, it's something we all have to do. So I usually stay away from the private market because it's a headache. These people are just looking, they think you're trying to screw them over, and I'm sure a lot of people do that. I have a friend in Macon that, he does stuff like that, but or an acquaintance, I should say. But I I don't. I'm not. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to get into another car. Like that's my goal. That's a great car. I've lost interest. I've lost interest in it. And life is short, so why just be content with what you have when you don't have to be, right? So, so I've got my fair market value. I'm not going to go through the private market because it's a headache. Even though if I spent the time, maybe I could find the unicorn in the private market, but I'm really not willing to deal with all the non-unicorns, before you get to the unicorn. So I'm not going to do that. And then your other alternative is to see what other dealerships will offer for the car, and then decide whether they'll offer more. Do they want the car worse than Carvana? Or do they have an inventory that has some good inventory that maybe they have an Avalanche that you're interested in, and you could just do the whole trade and you want access to this. This is what you want. This is where you lose money right here. Big time. So what I have attempted to do is I located the perfect Avalanche. We're going to call it the perfect Avalanche. Okay? The unicorn of avalanches. All right? And it's close by, 25 miles away. It has low mileage. It's fully appointed, has leather, full drive, everything that I want, okay? And once again, the Avalanche, why do I want an Avalanche? The Avalanche is literally probably the most versatile, functional vehicle on the planet. It can be anything you want it to be. It can be an SUV, it can be a truck, it can be an 8-foot bed truck, it can be a Baja vehicle, it can be anything you want. And it's like, just stood the test of time. I really want one really bad, and it pains me greatly that the people that possess those things, as far as dealerships are concerned, are the worst human beings on the planet, period. Hence why I'm doing this video. So, long story short, I found the perfect Avalanche, okay, at a small, self-proclaimed mom-and-pop dealership in Alpharetta, Georgia. The price wasn't bad. List price was... Once again, these trucks hold their value. They will hold their value as opposed to a Ford or a Nissan or something like that just literally plummets every year that you own it. The value of the vehicle just plummets. This does not plummet. I don't put a lot of miles on my vehicles, so this vehicle will retain its value, and I will be able to sell it in the future if I decide to. Or maybe this is the magic match. Maybe this is the one that will just take me out of the game and just keep me satisfied for years to come. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. So anyway, $20,000 listed price. What's important is to note advertised price, all right? That's very, very important. That holds a lot of meaning, and I'll get into that in a minute. So anyway, I'm like, all right, should I do this? What should I do? Should I just sell to Carvana and get this cash, and then I'll pay the ad valorem, we'll call it ad V price. It's like $1,380 or something like that. So, I mean, if you're getting the car that you want and, it's going to stand the test of time, you need to be able to give a little bit to get what you want. So I'm like, all right, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to cash that out, flip some money into this thing, and then have a little bit in my pocket, But what pains me about this arrangement is I'm missing out on this apple right here. So why wouldn't I just ask them to see if I can trade it into them? Well, they're a very small dealership. 100% they're not going to do that. They don't have... They're probably the most desperate, hungry, predatory people on the planet. They don't have the backing that Carvana has. They're not listed on the stock exchange. They don't have that. So I'm not even gonna ask because they're just gonna insult me. So I'm willing to do this. This is what I'm willing to do. So let's do just a quick sort of education on what goes into the advertised price. Like, what does that include? Well, according to Georgia law, specifically Georgia, I cannot speak for any other state, the advertised price of a vehicle must include all non-government fees, add-ons, whatever. Okay? You got low jack, you got fabric and paint correction, you got warranty, you got gap, you got the documentation fee, which I just don't understand at all. All that legally in Georgia. If you advertise the price as being $20,980, it must include all of that stuff. Okay? Once again, nobody's following the law here in Georgia as of late, or has ever followed the law. But that's the doggone honest truth right there. You can look it up for yourself. So anyway, that's what a listed advertised price should include. So you should not have any surprises. The only other thing that they can add on is, and this is legally, by the way, is the government fees. This is the only unexpected, and it shouldn't be unexpected. There are literally calculators that are available that give you this information before you even go over there. So, if you do your due diligence, this should not be unexpected. Hello, friend. So that would be tax, tag, and title. And then there's a fourth one, the lemon law fee, which is $3. Not a big deal.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to the camera.
Huh?
Say hi.
Hi.
We're educating the masses. So you're blocking their view of my whiteboard. So anyway, the advertised price must include all non-government fees and add-ons, period. It's the law. And if there's a problem with that, you can contact the Georgia Department of Law's Consumer Protection Division and file a complaint that there is a deceptive and unfair sales strategy going on at that dealership, and they will be fined and audited and the whole 9 yards. So anyway, that's a fact, Jack. So anyway, I got all my ducks in a row. Got everything sorted out. I know I have literally different scenarios of what my net will be and all the different, and what's the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. That's all here. I won't get into that. But literally, I've gone ahead and just done the scenario algorithm there. Hey, get away from there. Okay? So I know what my worst case scenario will be and what my best case scenario will be. So I call the dealership and I'm like, hey, the lady picks up the phone. And I'm like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm calling about. And I'm very interested in this particular vehicle. Do you still have it in stock? Yes, sir. And she's having trouble pronouncing words and things, but she does manage to say, yes, sir, we do still have that vehicle in stock. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I have some other questions about the purchase process. I'm a big fan of not going over to those dealerships and having to deal with their, sort of dragging their feet and standing behind the tinted window and making you wait and feel vulnerable. Like, I'm just not a big fan of being preyed upon. I'm just not, So I don't do that. So anyway, I'm like, are you allowing people, because your website does advertise that, your purchase process can be done from home. Are you guys doing that still, or is that just some thing that didn't get re-updated or what? Oh, you need to talk to somebody else. I'm like, all right, well, I wish you told me that to begin with. I could have saved myself and yourself a lot of time and, explaining and asking my questions that you obviously can't answer. So she transfers me to this other phone number. And some guy picks up the phone and he's like, hello? And I'm like, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I'm calling about. Are you the person that I'm supposed to be talking to, since you didn't introduce yourself or state your department or explain sort of what your role is, so that now I'm wondering if I'm talking to the loading dock or the cleaning department, or, I have no idea who hello is, and he didn't say his name. So anyway, he's like, I'm with a customer right now. You know, you can just leave your number and I'll call you back. So I don't know what this guy's name is or what his role is. He didn't say. But I'm like, okay, well, let me leave my number and my name. And I'm, once again, very interested in this particular vehicle that you have that the lady said that you still have, which is a problem, right? You want to make sure they still have the car because they don't update their websites ever. And they're like, he's like, all right, bye. So he hangs up the phone. Never calls me back. Just totally left me with a horrible taste in my mouth. And you know, then you start having second thoughts. All right, well, maybe I should just keep the car that I have, and you know, maybe you know, it's just not meant to be. And I've never really been a firm believer on if you hit a little resistance, it's not meant to be. But I definitely don't like being violated, disrespected, or felt any less important than anybody else. So that's a big deal to me. So anyway, left a huge bad taste in my mouth. Not someone I'm really willing, or someplace I'm really willing to just walk in there and give them, you know, $23,000, which I could. Like literally, I'm the guy that could walk in there and give them 23 grand, not need financing, and just walk out. I want that one. Yeah, that's what I want. Here's the money. I'm walking out. Like, but you know, they don't care. You know, there's enough people that are getting loans that they could care less about somebody that thinks he buys a car every 3 months, or they don't care about that. They're not thinking big picture. So I apologize to the owner of that establishment because the people you have working for you clearly don't care about your business because they're just scaring people off. You could probably be the next Carvana if you got your head out of the sand. So never called me back, didn't, and nothing. No text, no other thing. I didn't call them back because I'm not going to chase somebody that's just going to not, you know, value my time at all. You know. So anyway, sort of started to give up on the process and went to bed and slept on it, woke up, and I was like, you know what, let me just look again, see what's out there. I have it once again a 7-day, sort of a 7-day period to make this work. You know, so I found another avalanche. We'll call it the almost perfect. Almost perfect, and what I mean by that is this one had a little bit higher mileage, but it had some better appointments, had like a little TV in it for the kids and some other little doodads that, you know, made it a little more enticing. These cars run forever. You can, you know, the parts are readily available. So, it's, you know, in terms of the mileage thing, it's not a huge deal, but I definitely don't want, you know, more than 100,000 miles. That's getting a little crazy, but the almost perfect avalanche, similar price, you know, plus or minus a couple bucks. It was listed for $21,400. Okay. The difference between this vehicle, besides the mileage and the doodads, and the other vehicle was that this one's for sale at a large sort of dealership, like a national dealership. So they have lots of locations and huge inventories, and they're sort of a specialized dealership. They deal with Land Rovers. So in my mind, it's like, all right, well, this is actually probably a better negotiating point because it's not super small. They have a big infrastructure, lots of backing. So you're probably more likely, in my mind at least, to get a better deal on a vehicle that's sort of it was a trade-in. It's a Chevrolet, not a Land Rover. So it's sort of something that's going to go to auction. It's the end of the month. They're not really trying too terribly hard to get rid of this thing. So anyway, I call them up, get the little sales guy on the phone. Nice guy, just trying to do his job, but he just happens to work for a very deceptive and predatory business, and just wasn't ready for me. So I call him up. I'm like, "You still have this car?" "Yeah, we still have this car. You know, we're gonna take good care of you." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Cool, whatever." Are we doing purchase processing from home, or are you making people come in? "Oh, we can accommodate you. We can do it from home." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "All right, cool." That's what I would prefer to do because it's like an hour and a half drive, and I don't want to once again sit there and just be preyed upon by the business tactics that they employ in this environment. So I've done it too many times. So anyway, I'm like, well, this is what Carvana said they're gonna pay me for the car. I sent him a screenshot of the sort of the invoice from Carvana. This is the mileage. Send him pictures of the car, the mileage, everything's, So he comes back and he says, all right, well, this is what we're willing to give you for your car, $26,592. Okay, not terrible. Okay, not terrible. What that would allow me to do is access this. If I can get this and access this, I actually come out with more than what Carvana wants to give me. And they have the car that I want. So I'm like, all right, we can work with that. So he's like, all right, let's talk numbers. I'm like, let's talk numbers. So he sends me the first invoice, and that invoice has the listed price, $21,400 plus an additional $4,500 in non-advertised, non-government extras. So I look at the thing and I'm like, bro, do you think I was born yesterday? Like, this is the listed advertised online price, and then you're going to add another $4,500 to that price. Now an old car is now worth like more than a new car? Like, I could get a new car for that much. So anyways, the guy's like, all right, call me and we can talk about it. So I call him. And I'm like, look, bro, I get it. You guys are in the business to make money. And I'm in the business of not losing money, okay? I have bought and sold probably 7 or 8 cars, like literally in the last year. And I have never had this sort of situation because I've been dealing with Vroom and Carvana, not dealing with these pop-up shops where they're literally molesting people financially and emotionally and psychologically, I'm sure. So anyway, I'm like, here's the deal. I'm not paying for low jack. I'm not paying for fabric and paint correction. I'm not paying the documentation fee of $817. I'm not paying, I went through the list of these crazy add-ons that were not advertised initially. He's like, oh, I've never heard that before. You're the first person to ever say that, this particular fee is like, not outside of the advertised price, and this is standard for the industry, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, sir, you're, respectfully, you're wrong. Georgia law states that outside of this price that you've advertised on your website, the only additional things that you can put to that price are the tax, tag, title, and lemon law. Okay. He's like, I've never heard that. I'm not the person to be talking about that. I can't answer that question. You need to speak to my manager. I'm like, yeah, sure. Put him on the phone. Well, he's going to have to call you. All right, well, I'm waiting. Hang up the phone. Some spam calls come through. A lot of mortgage lenders and car warranty calls are like coming through. So it just says spam. I don't see the numbers or whatever. So, anyway, he ends up calling me back and he's like, yo, my manager called you, but you didn't answer the phone. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. All I could see was like spam calls coming through. It literally just said spam. I didn't have a number or anything. He's like, all right, well, listen, I'm not trying to lose you as a customer over some, little trivial documentation fee or whatever, so I'm going to take that off. I'm like, all right, great. We'll take off all that extra stuff because I don't want any of it. And literally, I literally only want to pay the tag and title and the lemon law fee because I am accessing this by trading in the truck. So I literally have the apple, that Garden of Eve, like just Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden apple in my hand. It's just super juicy. I've literally accomplished my goal. I've found the truck that I wanted. I got the price for my truck that I wanted. I got access to the ad valorem credit that I wanted. And I got them to eliminate all that BS that they added on to the initial price of the vehicle. Now I'm only paying the price of the vehicle as advertised and the tag, the title, and the lemon law fee, which is like $90. Got the deal that I wanted. I'm like, yes! He's like, all right, are you going to come down here or are we going to deliver it or what? I'm like, look, if you can get everything teed up, I'm talking, I want to walk in that place, sign that thing, and I want to walk out. I don't want any dragging around, dragging your feet. Like, if you can get all that done, I'll load up my stinky boys, and we'll drive down there, and I will get that, bring my truck down there, get your truck, and we'll just do the exchange, and I'll leave. And I'll do that today, if you can just get it all set up. He's like, all right, well, let me see what I can do. I'll text you in 10 minutes and let you know. I'm like, all right, well, let me know. So I run outside, and I clean the truck out and get it all ready, come inside, and he sent the new invoice. The new invoice was essentially as discussed. There was 2 things on there that I said he needs to get rid of because I'm delivering the truck, not having it delivered or anything like that. And so then he texts me again. He says, oh, by the way, I just talked to my manager, and he says that we just sold the truck to somebody else. And I'm like, you just sold the truck to somebody else? He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Were you interested in something else? Can I help you get some other vehicle? And I'm like, no. I'm only looking for Avalanches right now, and you only have one. And I've been working this deal from 9 a.m. this morning until 2 p.m. And, and I'm not the one dragging around. I literally, as soon as you ask for something, boom, send it over there like within 0.01 seconds. And, you're the one over there janking around, taking forever. But, do I really believe that that vehicle sold like he's saying it sold? No, I don't believe that at all. What I know to be true is that they figured out that, man, this guy is like taking advantage of us. We're taking his old car, giving him a new car, and giving him money. On top of that, we're not getting our low jack fee. We're not getting our fabric and paint fee. We're not getting our documentation fee. We're not getting our jabron fee, stick it to me fee, my financing fee. I'm not even financing anything. We're not getting anything out of this guy. All he's doing is he's strapping us with another car that we're going to have to put into the database, and we're going to have to clean it, and we're giving him money for that car when we could just sit on this car. We just sit on this car and wait for the next sap to come through. This guy is annoying. That's what they did. They didn't sell that car. You can't even get financing for that car because it's too old and it has too many miles. So anyway, long story short, the used car hustle and the struggle is real. It is real. I literally have like all the scenarios of how to exercise that intrinsic value. I have just written out all the scenarios. I had the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, and literally with the deal that I had coming, I hit right smack dab in the middle of between worst case and best case, and I was going to get the truck that I wanted. And then they realized that I was like sort of an agitating sort of client, and that they didn't want to do business with me. So they just pulled the rug out from under me and said, you know what, no, we already sold the car to somebody else. Bull crap, you sold that car to somebody else. I'm the only one that's been working on it all day long. So, takeaways from this are, number one, if you want to sell your car, figure out what it's worth, market value. Carvana is a really good way of figuring out what is somebody willing to pay you for your car, no questions asked, and come pick it up tomorrow and give you money for it. Carvana. Vroom, great company as well, not as good as Carvana, but they will give you less, usually $2,000 to $3,000 less valuation. So I don't typically sell cars to them. I buy cars because they used to have good inventory. The shelves have been completely cleaned out by the just crazy buying that's going on out there right now. So that's number one. Figure out what you want figure out where you're at, the floor is for your fair market value. And then, once you have that number, you have negotiating power, at least for 7 days. And if you find a car that you want, try to trade in on it instead of just selling it, because you can realize this ad valorem tax credit, at least in the state of Georgia specifically. and that will add, further value to that vehicle, because that way you won't be paying the tax on the purchase, because you're rolling it in. You're getting a credit because you're trading in your vehicle, as opposed to just selling it, buying, and having to eat the cost of the ad valorem tax on the back end. So that's number one. Number two is understand your rights as a consumer, okay? If a car dealership or online car dealership or any car salesman is advertising a vehicle at a price of this in the state of Georgia, they cannot legally add anything else to the price that is non-government in nature. The only things that can be added on are the tax, which you won't be paying if you're trading in, the tag, the title, and the lemon law fee, which is $3. Okay, so literally know your rights. Do not allow them to prey on you. And if you feel emotionally wrapped up in the vehicle and you're sort of feeling like, just vulnerable and desperate, and they're manipulating and preying on you and all that sort of stuff, just walk away. Just walk away. There's no reason on earth that you should be feeling like you're being preyed upon financially, emotionally, or psychologically molested by these jerks. So don't touch that. So know your rights as a consumer, at least in the state of Georgia. If you have any question about the business practices of the place you're negotiating with, you can reach the Georgia Department of Law's Consumer Protection Division, and they will fine and audit and advocate for you and on your behalf. So I may submit a complaint to them about these two dealerships. Because I honestly feel like they made a grand attempt to try to take me to the cleaners, and they just were not prepared for what I was going to tell them. And they consulted with their people and probably realized it was better not to deal with me than to deal with me, which stinks because I really want that vehicle. I still want that vehicle. I don't want to deal with them. So just understand that, and as far as the rate limiting variables when it comes to operating with a dealership outside of Carvana and Vroom, is location. For me, I'm all about the future and get your hand out of there and doing things, in a advanced and creative way, such as allowing me to purchase a vehicle from my phone in my house and not having to deal with these horse traders, basically. Like I'm not about that, so I'm good. I'll just no haggle pricing and blah 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 blah. So as far as the brick and mortar stuff, there sometimes can be some fees added on for the whole delivery and document exchange process. That's sort of a fee that I'm willing to pay within reason to not feel like I'm being preyed upon. Okay, just to put that out there. The next rate limiting variable is the front desk person and the salespeople. They are just terrible people. That's all I've got to say. My experience with them so far has just been. Thankfully, I'm not desperate. I literally don't have to do this, but this is entertaining for me, and I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure the equation out, and I'm not going to be dealing with front desk and salespeople because they don't care about you. They don't care about anything. They don't even care about the business, obviously. So that's where I'm at right now. I've got lots of information up here that I'd like to share, but as of right now, this is sort of the process I've been going through, and once again, I've gone through all those scenarios as far as what's the car worth, the street value, that's the street value. This is the intrinsic value with the trade-in, as far as having that ad valorem tax credit. Best case scenario, I was going to net close to $6,000. above and beyond the total purchase cost of another vehicle, so that would have been nice. And then of course, worst case scenario is going to be about $4,500 net above the purchase price of the vehicle. But for some reason, this is where I'm at. No vehicle and a little bit of intrinsic value in my current vehicle. So more to come, but that's just a little life lessons with Luke. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But once again, the used car game is a hustle, and the struggle is real.